Hello, dear people out there in YouTube, BookTube land. My name is Ryan. This is the Rybrary. I'm your librarian. I hope you're having a great day. Don't talk in the Rybrary, though. I love you all, but just don't do it. It is the end of August and the beginning of September, because that's how months work. So that means I'm going to be doing a monthly wrap up video here, and also at the end we'll talk about my TBR for September. I only completed 3 books in the month of August, and one of those is very long, and that's the main reason why. I actually read like a third of it in July and just finished it in this month. But that's how I'm going to be doing things. If you didn't catch the first monthly wrap up video that I did last month, I'm going to be just talking about the books that I finished in each month. The first book that I finished in the month of August was Station 11 by Emily John St. Mandel. This is a literary post-apocalyptic work about ostensibly about a troupe of actors in post-apocalyptic America after a virus wipes out most of humanity. And this troupe of actors travels around and performs Shakespeare for the remaining people who are around. I read this as part of a book club, and I can say that this was a very frustrating read for me, and I know that was shared by at least one other person in the book club that I read this with, because it's very well written. Emily St. John Mandel is clearly very good at in terms of prose level writing, is very talented. And there were some really good characters with some interesting stuff going on with them, and there were some good scenes, but it largely amounted to nothing, if I'm being honest. And I mean nothing in thematically and, in terms of a coherent plot, in terms of, character arcs. It just was a lot of nothing burger. I feel like with this, she just had a bunch of ideas, and that she didn't ever really come up with a way to really tie them all together. And I think the most irritating thing about this was that, as I said earlier, it's ostensibly about a troupe of actors who travel in post-apocalyptic America and perform Shakespeare, and the obvious theme there of like trying to keep art alive in a world where survival is very important and is seen by most to be the only really important thing. But that wasn't even really like a big part of this novel. It's so weird. There isn't really anything. This isn't really about anything at all. It's got a smattering of different ideas here and there, and again, they just don't cohere into anything. And this is the kind of thing that makes me disdainful of the world of literary fiction, because it seems like authors feel like they can just kind of disregard plot and characters and whatever they want to have like stylish kind of writing. Hey, what can I say? People seem to like that kind of thing. Like, people love this book. But yeah, I don't think I would have even have had such, negative feelings about it if there weren't such hints of great stuff in here that could have happened, that could have been, brought to the front, that it just wasn't. I also, in discussions with someone else about who'd read this book and who loved it, said that, for a maybe better way that this could have been executed was to have it as a bunch of short stories that were like interconnected. That certainly would have made it go down a little different for me, because I wouldn't be trying to make sense of a coherent narrative, which just isn't there. But yeah, I guess I've said enough about this book. The second book that I completed in the month of August was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, a cozy horror novella. I reviewed this book on the channel, and you can go check that out if you want. This is a story about a former soldier in the country of Galatia, which is like in modern day Turkey area, I think. It takes place in the late 1800s, and this soldier is non-binary, and they are lifelong friends with the Ushers. This is a take on Poe's Fall of the House of Usher, and receives a distressed message from Madeline Usher, the sister, saying, "Help, I'm dying. I would like to see you before I die. Please come see me." and it's about her or them, excuse me, traveling to the House of Usher and trying to figure out what's going on there. Yeah, I didn't love this book. I kind of went over the reasons, in that video, but I just don't think it's for me generally what I'm looking for. It's kind of cozy horror and it's not supposed to be like proper horror, and so I found it kind of unsatisfying in that way, and I also thought it was just like super obvious and super predictable. I know T. Kingfisher generally writes for a more YA audience, and so it's sort of understandable that it's like maybe less sophisticated than what I would like out of a horror book, but all the same, I didn't really love it. And I listened to this on audiobook, and the audiobook performance wasn't my favorite either. But all the same, I did kind of like the characters that were crafted here, and so I might check out the next book in the series, what Feasts at Night, I believe it's called, because there is something charming and kind of cozy about T. Kingfisher's writing. So I might give the second one in this series another chance. And finally, the big one that I spent most of the month reading, and which has become my favorite book of the year, and overtaken The Troop, which was previously my favorite book of the year. Now second place. Sorry, Nick Cutter. But it's hard to deny that this is my favorite book of the year, and also maybe one of my favorite books ever now. And that book is Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. This is a classic of historical fiction that was published in 1989. Ken Follett was previously known as a thriller writer, primarily before coming out with this. And this kind of became the book that he is still most well known for, and led to him writing a lot more historical fiction. There's a bunch of other books in this series now, called the Kingsbridge series, named after the town where this takes place. It's a big book, as you can see. It's like 1,000 pages. I absolutely loved this. It was so good. This is one of those books where when I was finished, I was just like, I felt a sense of loss because it was like I just went through a really powerful, epic, moving experience. This takes place in 12th century England in a fictional town called Kingsbridge, and follows the lives of several interconnected people who are all involved in the construction of this cathedral. The story takes place over 3 or 4 decades, and the people who are children at the beginning of the book become, prominent figures at the end, and that kind of thing. It feels enormous. It feels epic. The characters are wonderful, and you feel so connected to them and to their plights and their efforts. Like a grand epic cathedral, this feels meticulously plotted and meticulously structured, and you can tell that Follett put immense care and love into this. You can tell that he's deeply passionate about English history and the period of history when this takes place. I didn't mention earlier, but this takes place largely during a time in English history called the Anarchy, when Henry I died without leaving a agreed upon successor, and there was a war between his nephew Stephen of Blois and his daughter Maud, who he wanted to be Queen of England, but who not everyone accepted that. So this conflict went on for about 20 years, and in this book, the story of the cathedral and the characters in this book bumps up against those historical events numerous times, and in really interesting and satisfying ways. I can't say enough good about this book, honestly. I'm always looking for something that presses the same buttons for me as George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire series, Game of Thrones, and this has come closer than many other things in that regard. Though I think that is more about the setting and the characters and the kinds of plot elements that occur here. I don't think like what is in Ken Follett's gut here is the same as what is in George R. R. Martin's, gut. This is much more uplifting and kind of is a story about inspiration and how it can guide us through our lives and make the difficulties in life worth it. I'm absolutely going to be reading the sequels to and prequel to this at some point. Fortunately, they're not. They take place, in different centuries. And they don't involve the same characters. So it's kind of just like a work in the same, shared universe or whatever. It's not like this leaves off and then the next one picks up like right after it. But yeah, I'm still kind of thinking about it, but this is one of the best books I've ever read, for sure. It's not surprising that it's a classic to me. Not at all. And that is the end of the recap portion of this video. And next I will talk about what I have lined up for the month of September. I'm already in the middle of reading 2 books, so those will be the first 2 that I'll talk about. The first of those, which I've been reading sporadically here and there, is Trash Tales, edited by Criminali and Alex from Alex Unabridged, 2 booktubers that I'm a big fan of. This just came out, and they kindly furnished me with a advanced reader copy, so thank you, Alex and Ali, for providing me this. This is a short story collection which was published in accordance with Garbogust, which is a reading event where you read trashy fiction, and Ali Criminali is one of the main hosts of this reading event. I've only read a handful of these stories so far, and I've definitely liked the ones that I've read, but I just haven't really been super in the mood, and I was trying to read it for August so that I could, come out with a review video for Garbogust, and I am going to be coming out with a review video of this when I finish it. But I just haven't. It's not really been what I've wanted to read. I spent most of the month reading Pillars of the Earth, and that was what I was wanting to read, and that sort of suggests something about these monthly reading events that doesn't quite work for me, and that is that I'm a mood reader. I'm very much, I have to go where I want to go, and I won't enjoy or appreciate things when, anytime I have to be in the right kind of place for reading a specific thing. So unfortunately, I have to, going to take my time a little more with this collection. But there have been some great stories so far, so I'm really enjoying it, and will definitely get around to writing or to publishing a review video of this collection. And the other book I'm currently in the process of reading, which I just started the other day, is Hungry Moon by Ramsey Campbell. Ramsey Campbell is a horror author whose work is often connected with H.P. Lovecraft and with cosmic horror and that whole movement of work. And this is one of his most famous books. He never really got super popular outside of the world of Lovecraftian and fiction and cosmic horror and that kind of thing. But he's very highly regarded within that world. I'm loving this so far. I'm kind of like, I was reading earlier today and was constantly like, I'll just read one more chapter. This is awesome. I'm just gonna keep going. And so far it's not as cosmic horror focused as I thought it would be. It's much more of a religious mania type horror, which has its connections to cosmic horror. And we'll see, how if they connect in some way, or if this just is not a cosmic horror work. But yeah, I'm loving it. This came out in the 80s, I think like 86. And you can definitely tell that it's in the shadow of Stephen King and his popularity in that decade, because of the small town kind of horror vibe that, everyone was kind of doing at the time in the wake of the style that King sort of popularized. At the rate I'm currently going, I'll be done with this in a few days, and depending on how much I have to say about it, I'll maybe do a review. Otherwise, I'll just wait until the September wrap up to talk about this more. I'm still sort of figuring out what works in terms of when to talk about books and how much to do dedicated reviews and that kind of thing. But yeah, really good so far. Once I'm done with that, I have this idea in mind because I've been putting it off too long, and I really want to read Adrian Tchaikovsky. I read Children of Time, his most famous book, last year, and it was my favorite book of last year, and I loved it so much, and have been meaning to get around to reading more Tchaikovsky for quite a while. Have been delayed for various reasons, and I'm just like really hankering for it. So I'm thinking I'm going to spend the rest of the month of September reading 3 Tchaikovsky books. I'm definitely going to be reading Service Model because that's going to be for a book club, and this is a robot AI kind of story. Why don't we just go ahead and read the description on Goodreads? Humanity is a dying breed, utterly reliant on artificial labor and service. When a domesticated robot gets a nasty little idea downloaded into their core programming, they murder their owner. The robot then discovers they can also do something else they never did before: run away. After fleeing the household, they enter a wider world they never knew existed, where the age-old hierarchy of humans at the top is disintegrating, and a robot ecosystem devoted to human well-being is finding a new purpose. So yeah, that sounds really cool. Another Tchaikovsky book that I really want to read that I have is Shroud, which I think is his newest book, came out this year. And this I'll read the description for this one as well. New planets are fair game to asset strippers and interplanetary opportunists. And a commercial mission to a distant star system discovers a moon that is pitch black, but alive with radioactivity. Its high gravity, high pressure, zero oxygen environment is anathema to human life, but ripe for exploitation. They named it Shroud. Under no circumstances should a human end up on Shroud's inhospitable surface, except a catastrophic accident sees Juna Sealander and my Stay Etienne doing just that. Forced to stage an emergency landing in a small, barely adequate vehicle, they are unable to contact their ship and are running out of time. What follows is a grueling journey across land, sea, and air. During this time, Juna and Mai begin to understand Shroud's dominant species. It also begins to understand them. If they escape Shroud, they'll face a crew only interested in profiteering from this extraordinary world. They'll somehow have to explain the impossible and translate the incredible. That is, if they make it back at all. So yeah, that sounds awesome, and I've heard that this book has kind of the trademark of Tchaikovsky that I really like a lot about him, and it's his ability to present alien entities and alien intelligences in a really interesting way. I think that sci-fi often falls into the trap of making alien life too much like humans. Obviously, you have to have some degree of that to be relatable for people. But I think one of the interesting things that sci-fi can do is present different kinds of intelligences that are not like us, and to get us really thinking about what other kinds of things could be out there, and like the real extent of the differences. And then finally, I really want to get around to Children of Ruin, the sequel to Children of Time. I'm not going to read the description of this since it's the sequel to Children of Time, but I will give a little sort of explanation of what Children of Time is about. And it's a story that's split into two sort of halves. One follows a generation ship of humans who are fleeing Earth, which is no longer hospitable, and they're trying to find this planet that has been terraformed and prepared for human life. And on that planet is where the other half of the story sort of takes place, and that's following this race of advanced, evolved spiders, and following their evolution from simple spiders to a highly sophisticated and advanced society, and their social upheavals and all that kind of thing. This book, Children of Ruin, apparently extends that idea to sea life. So there's like advanced, you know, squids and stuff like that. And that sounds really awesome and interesting to me. Uh, yeah, I can't say enough about how much I loved Children of Time. Definitely go read it if you're into sci-fi. Tchaikovsky just does a bunch of things well, and it's a delicate balance of things that just is really impressive. So that is it for my recap of the month of August and my TBR for the month of September. Definitely looking out forward to getting in some good sci-fi before we really get into spooky season for October, where I'll probably be reading mostly horror. Also, let me know what you have on your TBR for September and what you read in August. Thank you so much for visiting the Rybrary. I really, really appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe, please, if you have not. I would greatly appreciate that. I love you all very dearly. Thank you for visiting the Rybrary, and you now have my most sincere blessing that you can talk now.